Ethan adjusted the controls of his small exploration craft, the soft hum of the engines filling the cabin. He had traveled countless light years across the outer rim of the galaxy, chasing rumors of uncharted worlds and rare energy crystals that could power entire colonies. This planet, catalogued only as Zera 7, was supposed to be barren, a frozen rock with little life. Yet, as he entered the atmosphere, glowing green forests stretched across the valleys, and massive floating rock formations hovered effortlessly above the ground. The planet was alive, more than anyone had imagined. He landed carefully in a clearing where the bioluminescent trees cast soft blue and purple lights across the craft. The air was surprisingly breathable, and a warm breeze brushed against his face. Ethan felt a thrill he hadn't felt in years. This planet might hold secrets that no human had seen before. Stepping out, his boots sank slightly into the soft, moss-like ground. He scanned the surroundings with a small drone that zipped ahead, mapping the terrain and signaling back strange energy readings. The readings were unusual, pulses of energy unlike anything Ethan had ever recorded. They seemed almost alive. As he walked cautiously, a faint rustling came from behind a cluster of glowing trees. He froze, reaching for his energy pistol. From the shadows, a small figure appeared, darting between the trees with incredible speed. She was unlike any species he had ever seen. Her skin had a faint shimmer, almost metallic under the alien lights, and her violet eyes glowed slightly. She was humanoid in shape, no taller than a human child, but her movements were precise and strong. "I said stay back!" she called in a voice that was sharp and commanding. Ethan was startled. Somehow she spoke a language he could understand, though it had an odd musical quality to it. "I'm not here to hurt you," Ethan said carefully, holding up his hands. "I'm an explorer. I mean no harm." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not your pet," she said firmly, stepping closer, her hands glowing faintly with energy. "I can defend myself." Ethan raised his eyebrows. "Not a pet? I wasn't planning to make you one." She didn't relax. Instead, she shifted her stance, clearly ready to attack if he moved too fast. Ethan could see her small fingers glowing with tiny arcs of energy, evidence of her abilities. He realized that this was not a helpless child. She was capable and powerful. Before he could speak further, a low growl echoed through the forest. Ethan turned, scanning the trees. A pack of creatures emerged from the shadows, each one easily twice his size, with armored hides and glowing red eyes. Their movements were coordinated, like a predator that had hunted together for centuries. The alien girl hissed and threw her hands toward the creatures, sending a pulse of energy that knocked two of them back. Ethan barely dodged as one leapt toward him. Reacting quickly, he activated a small energy trap, sending a wave of light that stunned the creature temporarily. He realized that despite her power, they were vastly outnumbered. "Follow me!" Ethan shouted. He ran toward a rocky outcrop that looked like it could provide cover. The girl glared at him, but the threat of the creatures was enough to make her move. Together, they darted through the forest, ducking under glowing vines and leaping over roots. Ethan was impressed by her agility, and he had to admit she was saving his life more than once with her energy pulses and quick reflexes. Finally, they reached a small cave tucked under a floating rock. Ethan helped pull the girl inside. They crouched behind jagged stones, catching their breath. "You could have left me out there," she said, her chest heaving slightly. "Why did you help?" Ethan looked at her, brushing dirt off his jacket. "Because it's the right thing to do. And because I've seen enough of this galaxy to know that courage isn't about size or strength. It's about doing what needs to be done." She blinked at him, as if surprised by the answer. "Humans, you are different." The growls of the creatures faded as they moved on. Ethan and the girl remained silent for a few moments, listening to the alien forest. The air shimmered with energy, the trees glowing brighter as the light shifted. Ethan could feel the pulse of the planet itself, almost like it was alive and aware of their presence. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "I'm Leora," she said cautiously. "Ethan," he replied. "I think we can help each other survive here." Leora's eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue. They stayed in the cave until night fell, the forest outside glowing in soft waves of color. Ethan studied her carefully. She had a small, delicate frame, but there was strength in her posture. She wasn't a pet, or a child, or a weak being. She was her own person, capable of protecting herself and the planet she called home. Over the next hours, they shared stories. Ethan spoke of human colonies, of the dangers and wonders of space. Leora spoke of her world, a hidden civilization that had remained unknown to the galaxy for centuries. She explained how they had learned to manipulate energy naturally, a skill humans could only replicate with technology. Ethan listened, fascinated by her knowledge, and tried to share what he knew about human engineering, hoping it might help them in ways she hadn't imagined. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly, and a sharp pulse of energy shot through the cave. Ethan's eyes widened. "That's unusual," he murmured. "The energy readings, there's a disturbance. Something big is happening." Leora's expression grew tense. "The forest, it reacts to energy. Sometimes it shifts violently if we disturb the cores. We need to move." Ethan nodded. "Lead the way." "I'll follow." As they stepped out, the forest seemed to respond. Floating rocks shifted above them, glowing vines stretched toward the sky, and distant lights flickered like stars in the trees. They moved carefully, avoiding patches where the energy pulses were strongest. Leora's knowledge of the terrain was extraordinary. She leaped and twisted through the air, Ethan keeping up as best he could, using small grappling hooks and tech tools to move quickly. They reached a ridge overlooking a glowing valley. Ethan gasped at the sight. Crystals as large as boulders jutted from the ground, pulsing with energy in colors he had never seen. The energy radiated outward in waves, and the forest around it seemed alive in response. "This is why humans come here," Ethan whispered. "It's beautiful." Leora's eyes softened slightly. "It's my home." "And it's fragile. If the energy becomes unstable, everything could be destroyed." Ethan studied the crystals. "Maybe I can help. I have some tools, and humans are good at problem-solving in ways nature doesn't expect." She looked at him, skeptical but curious. "You think humans can understand our energy?" "I don't just think," Ethan said confidently. "I know humans can adapt. We find solutions where others see only problems." For a long moment, Leora stared at him, then finally nodded. "We will see." As night fell, the two of them set up a temporary camp. Ethan carefully placed his devices near the energy pulses, recording and analyzing the data. Leora watched, clearly still wary, but intrigued. Occasionally, she would send small pulses to test how the devices reacted. Together, they began a cautious partnership, one that combined human ingenuity with alien knowledge. By the time the two settled down, a bond had quietly started to form. Leora still insisted she was not a pet, and Ethan respected that. He understood that trust could not be forced, only earned. Yet he could feel a sense of understanding growing between them, a silent acknowledgement that they would need each other if they were to survive the dangers of this strange, beautiful world. As they lay under the glowing canopy, the forest alive around them, Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. Leora was powerful, intelligent, and fiercely independent, but together, they might achieve something neither could do alone. The galaxy was full of dangers, but it was also full of surprises. And perhaps, in this remote corner of the universe, humanity's courage would be tested, and respected, once again. For now, he watched Leora, the glow from the forest reflecting in her violet eyes. She was not a pet, not a companion by force, not anyone's to control. She was a being of strength and independence. And yet, for the first time, Ethan felt a quiet hope that together they could face whatever came next. The night passed, silent except for the hum of the forest and the distant pulse of energy. And as the first light of the alien sunrise painted the sky in soft hues, Ethan realized something extraordinary. This small, defiant alien girl might change everything he thought he knew about courage, trust, and the human spirit. The morning light on Zera 7 was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The soft green and purple glow of the forest mixed with the golden rays of the alien sun, casting long, shimmering shadows across the valley. The energy crystals pulsed faintly, reacting to the light, and the air was filled with a gentle hum, almost as if the planet itself were alive. Ethan rubbed his eyes, still amazed by the beauty around him. Leora was already awake, perched on a floating rock, her violet eyes scanning the horizon. She seemed to glow in the soft morning light, small but radiant, her energy pulses flickering faintly like tiny sparks. She turned to Ethan as he approached. "The energy readings are unstable," she said without preamble. "The cores beneath the valley are overloading. If we don't stabilize them, the forest will be destroyed. Many lives will be lost." Ethan knelt beside her, looking at the shimmering crystals. "Do you have a plan?" he asked. "I do," she replied. "But it will require precise control. Even a small mistake could trigger a chain reaction. Humans are clever, but they don't always understand energy like this." "I don't understand it yet," Ethan admitted. "But I can learn. I've faced impossible odds before, and I always find a solution." Leora studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. We will try it together. You will listen to me, and I will guide you. Any deviation could be dangerous." They moved toward the first energy core, hidden beneath a cluster of massive crystals. Leora hovered slightly above the ground, her hands glowing as she manipulated the pulses of energy around her. Ethan followed, carefully adjusting his devices to monitor fluctuations and redirect energy where necessary. "Focus," Leora said, her voice calm but commanding. "The core is sensitive. It reacts to emotion and intention. You must remain steady." Ethan nodded, concentrating. He had faced challenges before, but this was different. Here, every decision had consequences, not just for him, but for the planet itself. He extended his hands cautiously, following Leora's instructions, and slowly the energy began to stabilize. For hours they worked together, moving from core to core, combining human ingenuity with Leora's natural control of the energy. Occasionally, the forest itself responded, sending pulses that either helped or hindered them. Ethan marveled at how alive the planet seemed, aware of their presence, almost like it was judging their intentions. During a brief pause, Leora sat beside him on a large crystal, her expression thoughtful. "You humans are strange," she said softly. "You are fragile, yet you face dangers that would terrify any other species. You adapt in ways that surprise even the universe itself." Ethan smiled. "I guess that's why we survive. We're not the strongest, but we think, we adapt, and we don't give up easily." She studied him, her violet eyes reflecting the crystal light. "You are brave, Ethan. Perhaps too brave sometimes." Before he could respond, the ground trembled violently. One of the cores they had just stabilized began to overheat, sending arcs of energy into the surrounding forest. Ethan grabbed Leora's hand. "We need to act fast!" Working together, they redirected the excess energy, combining Leora's natural pulses with Ethan's devices. Sparks flew, Energy surged, and for a moment it seemed like they might fail. But slowly, the pulses calmed, the crystals stopped shaking, and the forest quieted. They sank to the ground, exhausted, but relieved. Leora looked at him, a faint smile breaking across her face. "You are not like any human I have ever known. You think clearly even under pressure." Ethan chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. "I've had practice, but I couldn't have done it without you." They rested for a moment, watching the crystals glow softly in the light of the alien sun. Ethan felt a strange sense of connection. Leora was fierce, independent, and proud, yet she had allowed him to help, to be her partner in this dangerous task. As they settled, Leora's energy pulses flickered weakly. Ethan noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" he asked, concerned. She hesitated, then shook her head slightly. "I am not used to this much exertion. Humans recover differently. I need a moment to rest." Without thinking, Ethan gestured for her to sit closer. She blinked, surprised, but allowed herself to sink onto the soft ground beside him. Exhausted from the day's work, she eventually leaned against him slightly, curling up as if seeking comfort. "I am not your pet," she said softly, almost as if reminding herself of her independence. "I know," Ethan replied gently. "And you never will be. But even the strongest need support sometimes." For a few quiet moments they sat like that, the hum of the forest around them, the energy crystals casting soft light. Ethan realized that trust wasn't something forced, it was earned. And in that moment, Leora was showing that she trusted him, even if only in a small, quiet way. The next day they continued their work, moving to the remaining energy cores. Each one presented new challenges. Some were unstable, threatening to explode with uncontrolled energy. Others had hidden traps set by the planet itself, a natural defense system designed to protect its most precious resources. Ethan relied on his human ingenuity, devising clever ways to redirect energy, stabilize pulses, and protect the surrounding forest. Leora taught him how to sense the subtle shifts in energy, guiding his hands and correcting his mistakes. Slowly, they began to bring the planet back into balance, core by core. During one particularly tense moment, a massive energy surge erupted from a central crystal, throwing both of them off balance. Leora barely managed to stabilize herself, her energy flaring brightly. Ethan quickly activated a device that absorbed some of the excess energy, diverting it safely into the surrounding terrain. They collapsed together, breathing heavily. Ethan looked at her, admiration in his eyes. "You are incredible," he said. Leora looked back, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "So are you, Ethan. Humans are unpredictable, but in a good way." As night fell, they set up a small shelter near one of the largest energy cores. Ethan worked on his devices while Leora rested beside him, her energy pulses faint but steady. He realized that the bond between them had grown stronger. They were no longer just allies. They were partners in survival, learning from each other and facing dangers together. In the quiet moments, Leora would curl up in his lap, still insisting she was not a pet, but showing trust in her own way. Ethan never treated her as less than an equal. He understood that her strength and independence were part of who she was, and he respected that completely. By the time they reached the final core, both of them were exhausted but determined. The energy readings were unstable, but they now had the experience and trust in each other to succeed. They worked carefully, combining human technology with alien energy manipulation. Finally, with a final pulse, the core stabilized. Energy flowed smoothly through the crystals, and the forest calmed. Ethan and Leora sank to the ground, exhausted but triumphant. The planet seemed to sigh in relief, the energy harmonizing in a soft, melodic hum. Leora looked at Ethan, her violet eyes glowing faintly. You saved the planet, she said softly. I never thought humans could do something like this. Ethan smiled, brushing a hand through his hair. We surprise people sometimes, but we couldn't have done it without you. For a long moment, they sat in silence, watching the glowing forest and the pulsing crystals. Ethan realized that this experience had changed him. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of wonder, courage, and unexpected connections. Leora leaned against him again, this time more relaxed. I am not your pet, she murmured, but the words carried no anger. Instead, they carried a quiet acknowledgement of trust, respect, and companionship. Ethan gently rested a hand on her shoulder. And you never will be. You are your own person, but even the strongest sometimes need someone to lean on. The two of them sat together, watching the alien sunrise, knowing that they had faced something extraordinary. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and determination had earned respect in a world unlike any other. And Leora, fierce and independent, had learned that trust could be given to those who proved themselves worthy, not through force, but through actions and character. As the light of the alien sun bathed the valley, Ethan and Leora understood that this was only the beginning. Together they could face any challenge, explore any unknown, and perhaps, in the vast galaxy, discover the true power of partnership between species. And in that quiet, glowing valley, with energy flowing calmly through the crystals and the forest alive around them, Ethan realized something he had always known. Humanity could rise to any challenge, adapt to any world, and form bonds even in the most unlikely places. Leora looked up at him, her violet eyes reflecting the light. You humans are extraordinary, she said softly. Ethan smiled, feeling the truth of it in his heart. And together, we can be unstoppable. The alien girl shifted slightly, resting closer against him, still independent, still fierce, but now showing a trust that no words could fully express. They had saved a world, and in doing so, had formed a bond that crossed species, challenges, and even the vast reaches of the galaxy. The forest hummed, the crystals pulsed, and the sun rose higher, bathing the valley in light. Ethan and Leora knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Human ingenuity and alien power, side by side, unstoppable and unbroken.